Welcome to UNLV Writing Center's workshop on the 7th edition of APA Style. In this workshop, we will learn how to format the APA document according to the current 7th edition standards, correctly cite sources in the text, both internally and externally, and format the references page. If you're looking for a specific aspect of APA formatting, check the timestamps in the video description below. Now, let's go over some definitions. APA stands for the American Psychological Association, who have set the standards and guidelines. APA is not just limited to formatting your paper, they also have other writing guidelines for publications. Abstracts are a one-paragraph summary of your ideas found at the beginning of your paper. Typically, abstracts are written after you've completed your paper. They are sometimes used for submissions to conferences as well. Keep in mind that not all papers require an abstract, especially shorter papers. Check with your instructor or prompt to see if an abstract is needed. In-text citations are notations in your paper that indicate language and information you've incorporated from another source. Finally, the reference page, which comes at the end of your paper, is a list that includes all of the sources you utilized in your work. Like other formatting styles, APA is used to ensure your reader can focus on your content and verify your sources. APA is most commonly used in the social sciences, business, and nursing. Now, let's take a look at the formatting of APA 7th edition. APA formatting provides a standard for the layout and appearance of documents. Formatting of APA documents generally include the following sections: a title page, an abstract, the main body, and your references. Some general formatting guidelines that APA requires are a cover or a title page formatted according to APA style. Remember, there are different standards for student papers than there are for manuscripts for publication. The paper should have 1-inch margins on all sides. It should also be double-spaced throughout the entire paper. Even the reference page should be double-spaced. You should also only include one space after terminal punctuation. In other words, at the end of your sentence, after you place your period, exclamation point, or question mark, you should only include one space before you start your next sentence. Insert one space between punctuation in a sentence as well. This includes commas, semicolons, and colons. You should not include spaces after periods used within abbreviations. One example of this is between the punctuation in AM and PM. Finally, the font you use should be one that is accessible or legible, and it should remain uniform throughout the text. Some examples are 11-point Calibri, 11-point Arial, or 12-point Times New Roman. Now, let's take a look at APA title pages for students. In the 7th edition of APA, the top of the page no longer needs the words running head and the abbreviated title of your paper. Check with your instructor to see what version of APA they prefer, since previous editions have different formatting standards. The title page should include the page number in the upper right-hand corner of the page, and it should be page 1. In the upper half of the page and centered, you should have the title of the paper in bold. Your title should be as short and succinct as possible. The next line should have your full name. The third line is your university name. You should spell it out completely and not use an abbreviation. On the fourth line, you should include your course name and number. The following line will have your instructor's name, and on the final and sixth line, you'll have your due date. The example on the screen shows what your title page should look like, following all the guidelines previously mentioned. Now, let's talk about abstracts. An abstract is a summary of the main points of your essay. Not all assignments need abstracts. For example, if your paper is only a page long, an abstract isn't necessary. It's important to know your instructor's expectations. You should write your abstract last, after you've written your essay, and it should cover as many of your main points as possible. In the body of your paper, APA uses headings to separate and categorize sections of the paper so parts of the essay are easily identifiable. APA headings divide and subdivide information. Headings keep your sections organized, and looking over the headings helps provide a roadmap for readers. APA uses headings in place of transitional sentences. Because the headings map out your argument, there's no need to include traditional transition sentences between sections. All headings should make logical sense for the readers, making clear connections within the text. Here's a look at how each of the headings should look. Level 1 is the most common heading, but if you need to subdivide the information under that heading, there are up to 5 different levels. Level 1 should be centered, bolded, and written in titled case with all words capitalized except articles, prepositions, and conjunctions. In the example, we see a Level 1 heading that reads Method. Level 2 should be flush with the left margin, bolded, and written in titled case as well, which is shown here as Participant Information. Level 3 is the same as Level 2, but it is italicized as well as bolded. Here you see that the grade, gender, and demographics of participants are subsections of participant information. And since participant information is Level 2, these 3 headings are Level 3. Level 4 is indented, bolded, written in title case, and should end with a period. Here we see religion, which is one of the criteria of demographics of participants. And Level 5 is the same as 4, but is italicized as well. Don't forget the period. Here too, we see headings for several religions, and since they are subsections for religion, which is a Level 4 heading, these are all Level 5 headings. Levels 4 and 5 also require the subsequent paragraph to start on the same line as the title heading. Remember, Levels 3, 4, and 5 have changed from the previous edition of APA. Before we move into how to create citations, let's talk quickly about what information needs to be cited. Like most formatting styles, you must cite all quotes, paraphrases, and summaries. Paraphrases are used more often in APA than quotes. That doesn't mean that you cannot use quotes, but you should use them sparingly. When integrating sources, whether they're quotes, paraphrases, or summaries, you'll include the author's name and the year the source was published. In the event there's no author's name, you'll use the title of the work or group that published the piece. With direct quotes, you must also include the page number where you pulled the information. APA discourages using indirect sources unless you're unable to find the original document your source is referring to. Every in-text citation has a corresponding entry on the references page. And there are 3 types of in-text citations we'll cover: block quotes, signal phrase citations, and parenthetical citations. Before we get into the different types of quotes, let's review the differences between quoting and paraphrasing. Quoting uses the exact wording of your source. Quotes are bookended with quotation marks. Remember, the quotation marks are not sufficient to indicate you've taken the information from a source. You must also cite the source by providing the author's name, year of publication, and page number. Paraphrasing is a rephrasing of a source's ideas in your own words. You must cite all paraphrase material. In APA, paraphrases do not require the page number, but you still need to include the author's name and the year of publication. The first type of source integration we will discuss in length is block quotes. A block quote is a quote that is longer than 40 words. As stated previously, APA prefers paraphrasing to direct quotations, so block quotes should be avoided if possible. A block quote follows a signal phrase followed by a colon. The block quote is double-spaced, and the entire quote should be indented ½ an inch. In the case of a block quote, the citation is found after the ending punctuation, not before. Finally, there should be no quotation marks around a block quote. On the screen, you'll see an example of how a block quote looks on a page according to the guidelines just given. Now that you have an idea of what to cite, let's talk about how to cite, starting with in-text citations. One thing to keep in mind is that every in-text parenthetical citation should point directly to an entry on the references page. There should be no in-text citations that don't directly correspond to a full citation on the reference page. Generally, in U.S. academic writing, in-text citations are required to properly attribute sources. In-text citations are used when paraphrasing, quoting, and summarizing. However, APA prefers paraphrasing when working with sources. Each in-text citation should be preceded by a signal phrase or parenthetical citation. In the first example, the writer has used a signal phrase to introduce their quote. Caviglia-Harris, open parentheses, 2020, close parentheses, observes, comma, quote, economists largely agree that writing is fundamental to understanding and communicating economics, end quote. Since the writer included the author's name in the signal phrase, we don't need to include the author's name in the parenthetical citation at the end of the quote. So it just reads, open parentheses, P for page number, period, 116, which is the page number of the quote, close parentheses, period. In the second example, there is no signal phrase used, so the quote reads, quote, economists largely agree that writing is fundamental to understanding and communicating economics, end quote, parentheses, Caviglia-Harris, comma, 2020, comma, P, period, 116, close parentheses, period. You should also avoid using the author's full name. Refer to the author as Harder, not Jill Harder. Place the references directly after the quote, even if the sentence hasn't ended yet. Signal phrases are a part of a sentence that attribute quoted or paraphrased material to a source or author. They use a verb of attribution that precisely indicates how the author presented the material. For example, Cook, parentheses, 2021, close parentheses, found that the qualitative feedback students received corresponded directly to how they evaluated their instructors at the end of the term. In this example, found is the verb of attribution which leads the reader into your source material. Check out the link in our description to find more verbs of attribution you can include in your research papers. In-text citations may vary depending on the number of authors or if the author is unknown. For two authors, you want to spell out the word "and" between the two authors' names. For example, research by Tanaka and Hiro. However, for citations in the parenthetical, you'd use an ampersand. For example, Tanaka ampersand Hiro. For three or more authors, you'll write the name of the first author followed by et al. Et space al followed by a period in both the text and parenthetical citation. For example, Delaney et al. Don't forget the period after al. If the author is unknown, you can use the group name or the first part of the article title. What you use will directly relate to the first part of the reference entry. If you're using the article title, it will be in quotes. As a reminder, all reference page citations must be cited in the text. Here you'll see on the left the in-text citations circled. On the right, you'll see that each of these citations has a corresponding entry on the reference page. Now, let's take a look at how your reference page should be formatted. First, begin on a separate page at the end of the paper. Do not use the Enter key to start a new page. If you do, any changes you make to the document before the reference page will mess with your formatting. Instead, move your cursor to the end of the document, click on Insert, and then Insert Page Break. That will automatically start your text on a new page, regardless of any changes you make to the body of the essay. Next, keep the margins in the header uniform to the rest of the essay. This means 1-inch margins on each side of the page. Your title should be the word references in bold letters centered on the page. All citations should be double-spaced. Don't skip any lines between citations, and don't number the citations. Organize them in alphabetical order by the last name of the author. If there is no known author, use the title of the source. Each citation should include a hanging indent with the first line flush with the left margin, and any following lines of the citation indented 1/2 inch. The Writing Center provides handouts on how to format APA style in Word and Google Docs. APA references follow a standard format. Generally, the author or authors' last names and initials come first, followed by the publication year, then the title in italics, and depending on the kind of source, the required publication information. Here's the formula and an example for a book reference. It starts with the author's last name. In this case, there are two authors, so you would separate their names by an ampersand. You'll follow with the publication date in parentheses, the title in italics, and finally, the publisher's name. Note that there's a period between each piece of information. When putting together your reference page, first identify the type of source it is, then you can find the formula to use. In the video description, you can find a link to the Writing Center's Handouts page, which includes a resource on APA references that has a list of various resources and their reference page formulas. In this slide, you'll see a formula and example for a journal with a DOI. DOI stands for Digital Object Identifier. This number acts as a permanent address for a resource on the web. DOI numbers are most commonly attached to journal articles. Similar to the previous entry, you will begin by including the last name of the author followed by their first and middle initials. In parentheses, the year of publication followed by the title of the article. You do not put the title in quotes for this entry. Next, enter the title of the journal where the article appears in italics, followed by a comma, then the volume number of the journal also in italics, then the issue number in parentheses. You'll follow that by another comma and then the page range of the articles with the first and last page numbers of the articles separated by a hyphen. End this entry by entering the DOI address as shown in the example below. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns, or corrections for any of the materials presented? Contact the Writing Center at writingcenter@unlv.edu and we'll get your questions answered or take feedback on how we can improve. We are currently holding synchronous virtual consultations through Google Meet and are offering an asynchronous online writing lab, or OWL. To schedule a 30-minute virtual consultation, call us at 702-895-3908 or visit MyUNLV to schedule an appointment at least 3 hours in advance. For instructions on how to book online, visit the virtual consultations page on our website. Once the appointment is scheduled, you will receive 2 emails. The first confirms the day and time of your appointment and includes a link for you to fill out information about what you want help with. The second will include the link to the Google Meet event so that you can connect with your consultant. We hold consultations Monday through Thursday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., Fridays from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m., and Sundays from noon to 5 p.m. To submit a paper to the OWL, you can find all of the instructions on our website. OWLs are returned to the writers at 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday and at 1 p.m. on Sundays. Consultants have 24 hours to review your submission, so you typically will have the feedback the day after you submit, unless you submit in the evening or over the weekend, in which case it might take a bit longer. You can learn more about these offerings on our website, and if you're registered with the DRC, contact them to find out if we can offer you any accommodations. Sometimes you're working on a project where you only have one quick question that isn't worth scheduling an entire consultation. If you have a question that can be answered in 10 minutes or less, contact us via email or Google Chat at writingcenter@unlv.edu or give us a call at 702-895-3908 or stop by our main office on days that we're open. We typically respond in less than 20 minutes. It is at the consultant's discretion if your question could take 10 minutes or less to answer. If it cannot, we'll recommend you make a consultation appointment. Check out our website at writingcenter.unlv.edu. There, you can access the most up-to-date information on our hours, download a variety of handouts covering formatting, style, and grammar topics, access our online writing lab, and find information on how to schedule consultations. On our website, you'll also find other workshops like the one you just watched, as well as a schedule for any in-person and synchronous remote workshops we may offer. A link to our website is included in the video description. For the latest information on Writing Center happenings, like us on social media. We offer writing advice from our consultants, motivation to help you keep moving your writing forward, announcements about Writing Center and UNLV campus events, and much, much more. We look forward to working with you in the Writing Center. Happy writing!